I intentionally slowed the organization down. They were literally coming at me with pitchforks.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing? We're growing. Why are you slowing us down?
That's Bobby Herrera, founder and CEO of Populus Group, author of The Gift of Struggle, and one of the most inspiring and effective business leaders in the world. There's a reason Patrick Lencioni calls him
the best CEO you've never heard of.
Consistency on its own is a superpower, especially when it comes to building culture. Organizations that build really strong, well-defined and healthy cultures do three things better than anywhere. Our attrition rate as an organization is more than 50% lower than our industry. Our net promoter score is more than 3 times the industry average. People will generally behave in a manner that keeps them safe if they actually know what keeps them safe. I'll often ask CEOs, like, what's the single most important asset that you own in your organization? And I'll get some creative answers. But what I'm guiding them towards is
Bobby, I'm so grateful that we get to spend this time together today. I've been a huge fan of yours for so long, and thank you for taking time out of this week to be with us on Culture Creators.
Yeah, you're welcome. I admire your work, and I was looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you. When we're talking today, I wanted to challenge us to go back and talk to each other 20 years ago. So I'm new in my career working for a CEO. You're starting your organization. You're getting ready to celebrate your 24th birthday at PG. So happy birthday to PG here in September. And I'd be curious, if you look back at 20 years ago, what would you have told yourself then that you didn't know that would help you get to where you are today?
Well, we don't have enough time for me to tell myself everything I didn't know. As it pertains to what I envisioned then to what I'm living now, I think then I had a desire and a feeling that I wanted to bring to life that I just didn't necessarily know how. Like, I eloquently tell the initial story of Populus Group in eras. In that first era, I call it the most fun I never want to have again.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out how to build a business, but more importantly, I was trying to figure out how to bring to life a culture that I felt I wanted to create inside, but not knowing some of the challenges that lied ahead, if that makes sense.
Totally. In which of the eras, because I think you have 4 eras that you described, a lot of CEOs ask this, in what era do I need an HR or people partner? When did you know, okay, I have this vision of my culture, I've been living up it, I need to take myself out of it to focus on other areas? When did you first hire that first HR teammate?
Well, I'm going to answer that a couple of different ways, right? So when you're first starting a company, as you know, having been through the journey of managing those life cycles, in the very beginning, you are pretty much like a Swiss Army knife, and there's a lot of versatility in every role.
It's a great analogy.
Right. So, in the beginning era that I mentioned, that most fun I never want to have again, we were all playing numerous different roles throughout every part of the organization, just trying to figure things out. And the second era, I call that the holy bleep era, because we had some fortunate growth, and that versatility and that need continued, but we were trying to bring to life some more structure. And at that point in time, I didn't have a full-time HR leader, but I had someone trying to fill the majority of the HR leader's role, if that makes sense, both tactically, strategically, and culturally. But I was still trying to bring that to life with the clarity that I needed to. And if I'm honest, I was failing miserably at that time.
It's a tough time. So Holy Leap era was 5 years into your journey.
So the first era, most fun, was first 5, and then the Holy Leap was the second 5, where we experienced some good growth from that initial era. And then it was in the third era that I called the era of slow, where I intentionally slowed the organization down. And metaphorically, what I was doing up to that point is I was trying to build something with a very shallow foundation.
Yeah.
And so the whole essence of me slowing the organization down was for me to say, okay, if we want to build something special, meaningful, and structurally strong, we have to dig a deep foundation of our culture, our purpose, and our values in order to build something special for years to come. And that's what I did in in that third era of slow. And, I'd like to say that it was met with a lot of, excitement and energy from my team, but they were literally coming at me with pitchforks.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, we're growing. We have all this work that we need to do. Why are you slowing us down? And it took years of me battling that resistance to really bring it to life. And finally, it got to the point to we started building together. It was during that era where I brought in the HR leader on a more full-time basis that helped me build it.
Okay, so just to back up and give everybody kind of a leg up framework, because everybody's
Sure.
going to be like, how many employees, how many years,
Right.
like all those types of
Uh-huh.
things. So
Yeah.
when you were sharing the role, about how many employees were you when you were like, I'm going to have somebody part-time help me? Do you recall?
In the so initially when we were experiencing that, we were starting to get upwards of 100 employees as we were going through that.
Climbers. We're going to call them
Correct.
climbers. That's
Yes.
the PG language.
Yes. So
So about
nothing accurate.
100 climbers.
Yep. We had about 100 climbers at that time.
Okay.
And we were growing rapidly. And so as we were selecting more climbers into our community, we were in a dire need to build more human systems that allowed us to bring them into, Populus Group the way that we wanted, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Because up to that point, there was no consistency.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what I needed
Yes.
in order to create the culture. Like I often say, consistency on its own is a superpower, and especially when it comes to building culture. And
So
I had so much lack of consistency with how we were doing those things. And I needed this HR leader to help me come in and build that.
build consistency. So what were the flags?
Mhm.
So you're just coming up on 100 people. It
Mhm.
sounds like it's feeling extremely chaotic.
Mhm.
You know that you're going to bring somebody in to help you.
Mhm.
What were the flags of chaos that you thought, I need this to be consistent? We can't have these waves.
Mhm.
What were some of those big areas that you felt like I need help in consistency?
Oh, I'm sure every HR here seeing this, and every CEO seeing this, uh, higher than what we would deem healthy attrition levels.
Yeah.
So we definitely had that. That was very symptomatic. Um, Lack of clarity in terms of how we're supposed to behave in the organization. There was a lot of uh, unwritten and unspoken
Yeah.
behavioral codes in the organization.
So
And, uh, you know, people will generally behave in a manner that keeps them safe if they actually know it keeps them safe.
yeah.
And so those were the two biggest areas. And because people didn't know how to behave, we could create the safety that we wanted, which was prohibiting us from building the trust that we needed in the organization. And to this day, coming to current day, that's the single most important metric that I measure in the organization.
Safety,
Trust.
trust.
Like what is our level of trust? Because the more trust you have within a community, and I'll often ask CEOs, like, what's the single most important asset that you own in your organization? And I'll get some creative answers. But what I'm guiding them towards is trust,
Yeah.
right? Because the more trust you have, the faster things move and the less things cost.
Yeah.
And the inverse is also true.
It's true.
But inconsistency in those areas significantly impacts any business leader or any HR leader's ability to build that asset.
Yeah.
And I was no different during that stage.
Okay, so you're growing quickly. You're at
Mhm.
100 climbers.
Mhm.
You have inconsistency in levels of trust, level of speed to execute,
Mhm.
level of autonomous decision
Mhm.
making because of low trust and low safety. You're experiencing high attrition.
Correct.
So those are like some of the key flags that you had at that time.
And uh there was also a feeling that you get, when you're building a sense of belonging in your culture,
Yeah.
like We can tell when someone isn't a fit. Sometimes it's hard to touch and define,
Is.
but you can tell. Like, so one of the things that we weren't doing up to that point that we can now is we were doing what I call flipping over the resume when we were first beginning the selection process.
Yeah.
Right? So you and I talked about this offline, right? We select, we don't hire. And the key difference there is when you first meet someone, we flip over the resume ceremoniously so we can really understand who they are, what brings them joy, what defines who they are, because what they've done on the resume doesn't give you those answers. So we really want to get to know that person in the selection process. But up to that point, we were very inconsistent with that part of our human system.
Okay, so we don't call it hiring, we call it selection, and I love that. You're flipping over the resume. Can you walk me through if I am applying to be selected, like what do I do? What are the questions that you're going to ask me? How do you know? You said what brings me joy. How do you get to know me, and how many selection interviews do I go through?
All right. So I'm going to give a little bit of context first, because I think that'll be
Yeah.
right. So my observation over the years has been that organizations that build really strong, well-defined, and healthy cultures do three things better than anywhere. They select well, they welcome well, and they develop well. And those are uniquely different from hiring, onboarding, and training, which are very common vernacular terms in the human resources space, right? So when it comes to selection and the beginning of that process, so over the years, we've continually evolved it to tweak it and make it better. But at a minimum, there was initially first two interviews and interactions were strictly cultural based. So in other words, we're focusing on our values and then asking questions that help us understand whether or not they've actually lived and appreciated those values.
Can I ask you a question really
Sure,
quick? So, have you already pre-qualified them? Like, they're qualified on a skills level to do the job, and then you're bringing in to select and determine if there is cultural fit.
Yeah, so in order to even be uh, qualified to have that first conversation, our internal recruiting will have made the judgment call that, hey, they have the skills and the potential to be successful in this role. Now let's see if they will come in and enhance our culture even more than it is now.
Okay.
Because a responsibility that we proactively communicate to every climber within PG is you had one day to be you. On day two, we expect you to start contributing to the culture and helping us make it better. And so that's all built into our welcome, which is different than our onboarding, than traditional onboarding, because we'll have climbers go through a week of nothing but a cultural experience, learning why we exist, who we are, and how we behave. And lastly, what we do, right? We focus on those two initial foundational pillars of our story before we even get to then doing any form of job shout.
Yeah.
So our philosophy has been you either invest now or you pay later. Right? So we want to do that up front. And going back to what we talked about earlier, during the era of slowed is when myself and my HR leaders started introducing that into all of our human sisters.
Yes.
Prior to that, we weren't doing. We were trying to do it on the fly and learning the hard way, but that never works.
Yeah.
So
in the selection, how many interviews do you go through before you get a welcome offer? Four. Okay.
All right.
And
Minimum, at
when-
least. Yeah, with different people within different parts of the ecosystem so that we can get a versatile view. And the climbers that we bring in will be hand selected by our IR team,
what's
depending our internal recruiting team,
okay.
by the needs for the role.
Okay.
So
And the hiring manager is a part of that?
1000%.
Okay.
Yeah. The hiring manager is the consistent component throughout.
Okay, so that's great view. Talk about how this system was developed. Was it your vision passed off to your people leader and that person built out the framework? Did you build the framework? How did you partner to make this a reality?
You're dusting off the cobwebs, so you know. So if I go back to that holy bleep era and that transition to the era of slow. So what I realized as a leader of the organization is that I had done a major disservice to my organization, because the mistake that I made then was be assuming that everybody else was flipping over the resume like I had been. Right. So up to that point, I hired some really good people that were a great fit. And I had been involved in almost every interview up to a certain point. And then we were trying to scale, we were trying to grow. I was, delegating more, I was empowering more. And climbers that I had selected early on who had sat in interviews with me and ceremoniously watched you flip over the resume, I made the assumption incorrectly that they were doing the same.
Yeah.
And so then I started observing that, hey, this is a good person, but they're not a great fit for who we are. And they're not behaving the way that we expect our climbers to behave. And obviously that resulted in attrition. And you can tell,
Yeah.
right?
You
And
feel it.
it's nobody's fault,
No.
right? We're not all a perfect fit for every place. And we were not living what we now have as a core principle when it comes to managing behavior. We have a simple term that we've applied to how we manage behavior, and it's called twos a trend, right? So the first time that someone goes off track in terms of behavior about culture, performance, etc., we believe that, hey, if they're not living up to the performance expectations, it's either because they can't, they don't know how, or they won't. Now, if we determine that they won't, that's a simple decision. Like, we're not a great fit for one another, and we have to make them available to the marketplace compassionate, right? And do that the right way.
Okay, we got to double down on that term.
Okay.
So everybody gets it because it's genius.
Sure. And then, and that's just, we have to exit them
Yes.
gracefully, compassionately, and in a way that gives an encouragement to go do good somewhere else. That's very important to us as an organization. And however, in that evaluation process of the twos of trends, if we determine that they can't or that they don't know how, that's a leadership opportunity.
That's us.
That's on us, right? So then we set them up for success. And then if they still can't do it, then we have that exit process. Because it's not someone's fault if you put them in the wrong role.
Right.
Right? That's on us.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a breakdown of that part of how we keep climbers safe in our community, because everybody watching, everybody knows.
They know, they see it. So in that time, you were experiencing all of this, and did you have your HR team organize it and train on it? What was the way that you took it out of you and you scaled it to the organization so you weren't a part of it all the time?
So I'll explain this in a way that I would want to understand it if I was a CEO or an HR leader in that stage, or if I had that symptom that at a certain stage time it's abnormal to every company, right? You want to have that clarity. So if I was a business leader and I was seeing some of these symptoms in my organization, as a CEO, I would be asking myself, have I given my HR leader the clarity required for them to know what the vision of the culture is and how I want it to feel 3 years from now? If you haven't done that as a CEO, your HR leader will never be successful.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, from the HR leader's seat, what he or she needs to do is to be able to discern what that leader is communicating to them and ask themselves, okay, what current systems exist and how can we tweak those to bring more consistency into our welcome, our selection, our development in order to build more trust and engagement for the community. And so I kind of answer those as an initial starting point from both sides, Anita.
Yeah.
And that's the starting point. But that's step one, right? That's a 1%.
Yes.
And I often say that the secret to bringing both of those to life is over communication from both sides. That's where I see most CEOs fail.
Okay.
And I actually put that responsibility more on the CEO than I do on the HR lead. Right? Your responsibility is to create clarity and then to consistently over communicate that clarity.
Yeah.
Right? Give them the empowerment to build it, but also give them the routine and the rhythm to ask questions in a safe manner for you all to work through those to get it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was blessed that I had a very courageous HR leader that would ask questions when she sensed that I wasn't giving her enough clarity or that we had something in place that needed to change. And I also needed to be willing to listen to that.
Yeah. So I love the advice to the CEO. What's the advice to the HR leader to gain that courage to ask the question? Who do they need to be to get that out of you?
Well, I'll still go back to the CEO a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to let any CEOs off the hook here. This is where, first and foremost, in order for that HR leader to ask those questions, you have to have created the safety, right? So I will give HR leaders a lot of grace if the CEO hasn't created that safety. So, Mr. or Miss CEO, you must create that safety in order for that HR leader to demonstrate that courage. Right? So assuming that step is done, the HR leader, the ones that I've observed are the most successful bringing to life that culture and building those human systems are the ones that can be very Socratic and say to the leader, say, we've been doing it this way. And if we do it this way and make these changes, we can build even more trust or more consistency soon. Right? Because that's what every CDO wants. They want more trust and more consistency within the organization, regardless of what service or product or problem they solve for the way. Like, that is the key to being a successful business, creating great trust. And the HR leader, I believe, is the unsung hero in every business that can help the CEO do that better than anybody. Right? Sales is important. Finance is important. Like, those are, I'm not downplaying the importance of them. But if you really want to create trust and engagement, it starts with your partnership with your HR leader.
Yeah.
That can't be overstated in my mind.
Hi, I'm Johnny C. Taylor Jr., President and CEO of SHRM. SHRM has been a Nectar customer for a few years now, and we've seen firsthand the positive impact Nectar's platform can have on a company's culture. Now, we're joining forces with Nectar to help more organizations build strong cultures where people feel valued and connected at work. In today's competitive landscape, a strong organizational culture is more important than ever. Meaningful recognition done consistently isn't just about boosting morale, but plays a key role in retaining top talent and improving overall performance. I'm proud to be a part of this journey and look forward to seeing the impact Nectar will have on your organization. Together, we can build workplaces where people feel truly appreciated and motivated to do their very best work every single day.
You said you measure trust. How do I know if I'm winning at trust?
Yeah, well, we've been strong students of the Covey Institute and using their
Speed of
speed of trust methodology.
Yes, it's really
And
good.
We've implemented that over the years. So we built consistency for many years measuring that. And really what that helps us do is take the voice of the community, and they tell us how well we're doing. They evaluate how much they trust me, how much they trust the executive team, how much they trust the business, the decisions we're making. And so it's their collective voice through a very proven process. And to this day, that is the most important metric that I measure in our organization.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to back up. We've talked a lot about words
Mhm.
and changing words from hiring to selection,
Mhm.
from onboarding to welcome, to exiting to offering to the market.
Right.
I love alternate words.
Mhm.
Early in my career, I had a CMO come to me and say, Anita, stop making up words and acronyms. You're confusing everybody. I will still die on the sword that
Right.
customized words and vernacular
Right.
is part of a cultural building block.
Mhm.
Give me your same argument for that, and how did you do it?
Well, it's actually part of a bigger journey in building culture. So the way that I've evolved the Populus Group story from where we started the conversation to where we did now is a 3-part process that I had to own as the leader of the organization. So I believe to build a strong, healthy culture, you have to do 3 things. You have to build identity, guide behavior, and speak a common language, which is at the heart of what you're saying. Because you have to bring to life the purpose, the identity, and the behavior with a common language that everybody understands and can associate with.
So, purpose, identity,
Correct.
behavior, values,
Correct.
language is that
Brings to life 1 and 2. So metaphorically, for example, we've been talking about climbers. That's my term for employees of Populus Group. And I introduced that back in 2006.
what era were we in?
We were still in the most fun I never want to have again. We were about to exit
It was
that.
early.
It was early chaos, early life cycle, and I was I'd say I was walking through a minefield with clown shoes on, trying to build a big business. And at that point in time, I had been a student of a lot of Patrick Bottiotti's work, a lot of Vern Harnish's work, mastering the Rockefeller habits, etc. And
Classics.
I had taken from mastering the Rockefeller habits, Vern Harnish's book, and Vern knows this. We talk about this, that people tend to connect to a theme, and I had learned through my journey in the military, and then I worked at Disney, and then I had its passion for the mountains. So I introduced this climbing theme
Yeah.
around the whole essence of, hey, I believe we're all climbing our own mountain. Like there's a
Yeah.
place that we imagine that looks and feels better than where we are today. And I was into mountaineering and so forth. And so I started calling employees climbers. And then based on what I had learned through my other experiences, we actually give every climber that is selected and welcomed in our community a carabiner on day 1
Yes.
that says choice for the way we want to behave, and we also assign them a climber number that helps them connect to the story. And so through the years, we have climbers that have like climber number 2 and climber 1000, and when they're climber number 1000, number 1 are talking, they know, oh wow, you were here during the era of most fun I never want to have again.
Yeah.
And so that helps us institutionalize the stories, because during the week of their welcome, we introduce climbers to other climbers within the community so they can hear the stories of our values. Right?
One
So
of my
I kind of gave you a lot of stuff there
Yes.
about our welcome and so forth.
One of the things I want the audience to take away from this is, especially people are struggling in welcoming in hybrid
Mhm.
and remote environments. And I heard that you encourage new welcomed climbers to call other other climbers who have been there for a while as part of a scavenger hunt. And they have to call and ask and find the answer,
Right.
which creates incredible connection from the start
Right.
to increase the level of safety and trust.
Correct. So don't quiz me on this, but I think it happens in there on day 3 or day 4 of their welcome. And they go through our culture quiz.
Yeah.
And so what that is a list of questions that we give every climber. And we also give them a list of tenured climbers in the community that they reach out to, and they'll ask these cultural questions to. And these climbers who have been in the community for a while will tell them stories as it relates to that question on how we live those values. Because as you know, just in general, our normal behavior, when we're trying to learn something, we visualize it.
Yes.
And so that helps them visualize the behavior, because the reality is they expect me as the CEO to tell them, this is how we expect to behave. But they're going to believe them before they believe me.
This
Right?
is
So they'll hear what
powerful.
they'll hear what we do before they hear what I say.
Yeah.
And so that's why we do it, so that they can build that connection. And they do that all in week 1 as part of their welcome. And it gives them great context before they even learn a single thing about their job.
Yeah. It's so important because we take so much for granted and we want to get them into the work too quickly. And they
Right.
don't have the context to be successful. I
Right.
hear this from people that have applied and joined organizations all the time. I feel like I got sold a bag of goods that
Exactly.
didn't exist.
Exactly.
And what you're doing is you're creating the value proposition. It really is a funnel, like customer marketing.
Right.
You're bringing in the climber, you're selling something, and then you're delivering all the way through the welcome period, saying what you signed up for is actually what we're selling to you.
Exactly. Right. So the Kool-Aid actually tastes the way that we said it was going to taste.
Yes, and you're not the only one delivering the Kool-Aid.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Now, one thing that I often get, and I think this is important to highlight, is when I talk about this with business leaders, whether it be the CEO or the chief people officer, often there's this narrative that, like, that's great and all, but we don't have time to do it. And so I'll often ask them this question: you don't have time to do it. Now tell me when you will have a more curious or engaged employee entering your organization. Will they be more curious in that first week or in month 6?
Yeah.
You have a prime opportunity in that first week to take advantage of their energy, their curiosity, and their excitement, and capture their loyalty. And one of the things that we've been able to do over the years is like our attrition rate as an organization is more than half, more than 50% lower than our industry. And secondly, our voice of the customer, like our net promoter score, is more than 3 times the industry average.
Yeah.
So when a business leader says they don't have time, I'm like, well, are these things important to you? Because if building confidence with your customers is important and building trust with your people is important, I think you can find the time.
I think you can.
Right. So,
Well, and I'm going to go a little off book here with this, but this
Sure.
has been top of mind for me lately, especially in this AI era,
Mhm.
that I think the ROA use case to hire a human over a bot just got a lot harder.
Right.
And so if you're going to invest in a human asset, you have to give them this setup to be
Right.
successful
Right.
because they're expensive assets,
1000%.
right? And they were before
Absolutely.
this era, but
Right.
why wouldn't you? So now instead of number of climbers, it's lifetime value of the
Right.
climber, just like it is of an employee, or sorry, of a customer.
Correct. And if I'm looking at it through the lens of an HR leader, I also think there's another fundamental way to break this down. So as an HR leader, one of the things that you have to do for these great people that you're part of the ecosystem is bringing in the community, you have to check what I call the 3 basic desires that we all share.
Yeah.
Right. So when someone enters our organization, they enter sharing 3 basic desires with everybody else that's already in the organization, right? They want to stand out, they want to belong, and they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, right? So you have to build the structure within your welcome to check all these 3 boxes, because as that person is entering your organization, they're asking themselves, Am I going to be able to stand out here? Am I going to belong here? Am I going to be able to contribute to the purpose of this organization? They may not ask it
That
that
way.
way or that clearly, but intuitively,
That's what they want.
that's exactly what we want, right? Especially this younger generation that is coming on board. But like one of the things I think that they're doing incredibly well for business leaders is they're holding us
They
accountable
are.
to build businesses for good,
Yes.
right? You tend to hear a lot of stuff that they're not doing. Let's talk about what they are doing,
Yeah.
right? And so as an HR leader, you can capitalize on that by checking those boxes.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to go nitty gritty with you here, Det. And so everybody's going to listen to this and they're going to come out and they're going to be like, where everybody's getting a carabiner, everybody's going through 2 weeks of welcoming.
Right.
If I am a CHRO, how do I start to have this conversation with a CEO that may not be open to this? Like where do I start, Bobby?
Wow, great question. Because what we're doing today is we're discerning through that 20-year journey that we started the conversation with,
Yes.
right? And so again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Consistency on its own is a superpower for any organization that wants to build a culture, a healthy culture that's meaningful. So if I'm that CEO or that CHRO that is going in to begin this process, I'll go back to that 3-step breakdown that I gave you, right? Building identity. Number one, I would ask myself, how clear are we with the identity of the organization? And then secondly, I would also ask, how clear are we and or how consistent are we with how we expect everyone to behave in the organization? And then lastly, do we have a common language? And does the common language complement and breathe the life 1 and 2? Everything. So, you start wherever you start, it is going to be situational, but you have to think in the mindset of, okay, what do we want to make progress towards? All right. And we tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term, but underestimate what we can do in the long term. Right. So I would encourage them to measure your progress in 6-month debriefs. Like,
Yes.
what are we doing well? What do we need to do better? What do we need to tweak? And don't be afraid to do that.
No.
Right. So, I was just, explaining to you, when we spoke a few days ago about, I have a values-driven award that I give in our community. That's we call it our Sherpa, our Compass Award winner, and it's my version of the Heisman. So every year we will give an award to one climber who best represented and lived our culture code, and it's I can't select it, but the nominations come from former Compass Award winners and my executive team. And what we will do is I will take them to a surprise retreat every year, every October, and we will zoom out and we will focus simply on the culture. And we will talk about, what are we doing well? What do we need to do better? What do we need to change? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to continue doing? What do we need to stop doing? And it's a room of cultural ambassadors that are speaking up and saying, hey, what if we get this? Or what if we tweak this? Or, hey, this is working well. How do we put more energy in this? But I've been doing that for over 15 years, right? Start this year.
Yes. Start this year.
Exactly, right?
And
Extreme
even just
always
start-
does. Just be consistent.
Just start between the CEO and the CHRO. Go
Correct.
sit down and have that conversation
Right.
with Borrow. That's easy.
Right.
Is there a tool that you think if CEOs and CHROs are watching this and they need to work on defining their identity or setting the vision, is there a tool that you've used for that?
I'm a big student of Patrick Lencioni's 6 Critical Questions.
Yes.
Those have been an incredible guide for me over the years. I started using those back in that initial era. So I've been a student of Patrick Lencioni's work for a long time. It's worked for us. And what I've been able to do is create that clarity using his 6 critical questions. Why do we exist? Like, I think first and foremost, every business leader needs to have clarity around, hey, why do we exist?
Why we
So for Populus Group, like, we exist because we believe everyone deserves an opportunity to succeed. And that's based on a kind act that came to my life when I was 17.
Yeah.
It's the initial, it's a bus story of a gift to struggle. And it's the story that gave me meaning and purpose. And it's the whole reason I started my company.
Yes.
Like,
If you're listening and not watching, Bobby has a great book called The Gift of Struggle. We're not going to tell the story today. It's in the book. I want you to get the book because it's so awesome.
it's so, we going back to that,
Yeah.
I start with that. And then question number 2 is, how do we behave? Right.
Yes.
That's what's the culture code of the organization? Right. So I would encourage an HR leader to write down your 5 best people in your organization,
This is a good one.
and then draw a big circle and say, hey, what is it that makes them our best? What is it that they do consistently and daily?
Values.
Exactly. And then you'll discern and you'll be able to do that. Like, that's an exercise that you could do with your fellow executives or your CEO, and you could bring clarity to that.
I
very
also would
quickly.
share, if you're in a large organization and let's say the management team isn't doing this, you could do this with your department.
Right.
And that also works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, that'll give you the microculture. What I would encourage that leader to do is make sure that it interconnects to the macro culture of the organization, right? And good judgment, good business leaders to do that. Now, one of the things that I would also encourage HR leaders during that process is to make sure that they're bringing the values that they discern from that process to life in a way that people can complement and understand with stories that have been lived out in the organization. Like, so for example, the 3 pillars of our culture code are give more than you take,
Love that one.
speak from the heart, and go off the beaten path. And we have stories that bring to life each one of those cultural values that other climbers share. This is how we do this, right? Speaking from the heart. We will literally teach climbers in that first week how to say anything to anyone. Like, we teach candor. We teach people to tell the kind truth. That's an important skill. So if we want to create safety, create trust, you have to teach people how to communicate.
Yes.
So
one of the questions we get, which you answered, but I just want to be precise with it. I am ahead of people. I'm going to you as my CEO. And I said, I want this tool to help measure trust. I want this tool to help measure engagement or appreciation or any one of the things that we've talked about. And they said, well, what's the ROI? What do I get for it? Especially to a CFO that has to write the check.
Right.
How do I convince them that they need to believe in this and pay for it?
Wow, big questions, Anita. And I think I want to encourage HR leaders to zoom out in a way that would be more situational to them, because everyone's situation is going to be different, right? Like, I believe that there's more leaders that want to do good than not out there. Just speaking in context there, but if I'm that HR leader and I want to approach the CBO or the CFO about aligning to start this journey, I think you could focus on, and I'm going to use some of Populus Group's language, right? I think if you could get both of their attention by saying, hey, we've been measuring our KPIs. We've been well intended about how we measuring our KPIs, but I think I have a better way on how we can do it. And here's how I define KPI, right? Most people know it as the business term, like, key performance indicator. I would in turn tell them to have that conversation with their leader and say, here's how we should be defining it. How well are we keeping people inspired? How well are we keeping people interested? And how well are we keeping people involved? That applies to every part of every organization's ecosystem. right? And imagine the return that we get as an organization if we were able to more successfully do that. If we kept more people interested, if we kept more people involved, and if we kept more people inspired. As leaders, that's our responsibility to the organization. And you could have a real good, meaningful conversation starting there and then drill down to the traditional key performance indicator.
Yeah, Bobby, we've gone through so many amazing concepts. And when we started our conversation, we kind of said, imagine us 20 years ago, and we're starting on this journey. Where do we start, and what are the key concepts that we need to make sure our audience takes away? So what do you think are the top 3 things that a CEO needs to take away from this, and the top 3 things that a head of people could take away based on all of the great concepts that we've talked about? And her 20-year-old self, like you have to go back 20 years, and these are the things you must start with.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we've been piecing together parts of the journey, right? So as I zoom out and look at that 20-year picture, I think step one as the CEO is, have I evaluated my organization in a way that helps me understand where I've been well intended, and then building that bridge to become very intentional in terms of bringing the culture that I want to have to life. And I think that would be step one, right? And then step number 2 would be, what do I need to do to bring the clarity that's required for this vision to life, and who needs to hear it first, right? And spoiler alert, that's going to be your core business executive team, right? And then lastly, I would also encourage that CEO to ask themselves, how can I continue or start building consistency with the level of trust that I have in the organization, and incrementally make it better every year, right? So that's where I would start if I was the CEO. Okay. Now, if I shifted over to the to the chief people officer, or whatever fancy title we have in the organization, I would look at it from a complementary lens, starting with, the first one is, how consistent have we been with all the human systems that we have that help us bring to life trust and engagement? And then number 2, I would say, how can I establish a better and more aligned rhythm with my leader to keep bringing his or her vision to life as it pertains to culture, right? And then lastly, I would also ask, if I'm that HR leaders, what can I do to institutionalize all these human systems so that I don't feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world?
Have to be.
Because if you don't include the entire community in this journey, you're going to fail.
You are.
Right? Now, I often say that, the stories we tell today determine the chapters we write tomorrow, and the chapters we write tomorrow are better written together. And that could not be more true as it pertains to building culture and building alignment within CEO, CHRO, 2 real critical components of that truth.
What a beautiful way to close this conversation. Learned so much and just love spending time with you, Bobby. Thank you for sharing and dusting off the cobwebs and going back.
I felt like I was having a bit of a pop quiz here.
We are going back to the future. Well, we have 2 final questions. One is, do you have a culture crush? Somebody that you admire that does culture really well?
Oh, yes, I do. I have a few, if I may. I've been a student of culture for quite some time. I've been a big student of the All Blacks, which is the New Zealand rugby team, and studying how they do. Like I've applied good theft from a lot of things they've done in their organization. I've also been a big student of things that I learned from, from being a cast member at Disney. I worked at Disney before I was in the military. So I've taken some things from them. And I'm also a big student of Southwest and Chick-fil-A in terms of how they brought their culture to life, which, I think they're very unapologetic about saying that, hey, it's not for everyone, but for those of us that it is for, this is how we succeed. Right. So those would probably be, I know you asked for one, but I just love studying culture so much that those are like four where I'm really taking it over.
I'm surprised you didn't cite it. I thank you for your military service.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that seems like a big influence as well.
A big influence. And yeah, that's definitely one of them. I proudly served in the Army. I'm a proud Army veteran of 8 years. And I've taken a lot of things from that part of my story and embedded it into our vernacular and into our behaviors, et cetera.
So you get to ask our next guest any question. What would that be?
Well, I think I would ask them, if you were to ask everyone in your organization, what's the single most important asset that we collectively own? Would they all tell you that it's trust, or would they give you a different answer?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to leave with the answer.
Yeah, I know. So, maybe we ask them, does everyone in your organization know what the single most important asset that you all collectively own is? I would ask them that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. One thing we didn't talk about that I thought was awesome is how you offer people back to the marketplace. And I love that term. And I love the term that you've said it's no surprises and it's humane. Okay, will you share kind of the process for how you go about doing that with people in your organization?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you philosophically what our approach is to that. I mean, I think one of the things that was real important for me to do was to build a common approach and consistent approach from our leadership brand. And so it's very important to me that everyone who is a leader in our organization is very skilled at speaking what we call the kind truth to our climbers, right? So we always want to make sure that we extend in the courtesy of knowing where they stand, right? And so we built our rhythm of making sure that they have not only feedback, but feed forward.
Yeah.
I think they're important, right?
I love
As
feed
most
forward.
organizations focus on feedback, I actually think the more successful leaders focus on feed forward, right?
Yeah.
So this is what you've done. We can't change it. However, let's talk about how you're going to behave going forward,
Yeah.
right? So that's step one. And then step two, when someone can't do that for one reason or another, we have to take pride in making sure it's a no surprise to them. And then also making sure that you extend grace and recognize that, hey, at one point in time, we all believed this was going to work, right? We weren't successful. Nobody's fault. We gave it our best. Let's exit this relationship gracefully. And how can we help you be successful in your next chapter? I've been imperfect at this, but consistent for more years than not. And, I actually take tremendous pride in hearing from Populus Group alum. I still have personal relationships with a lot of our alum from the past. And, I just believe that anyone that steps on the mountain with you, not everyone will summit. And just recognize that going into it. I think a lot of business leaders have this incorrect, inaccurate narrative. And I did too in the beginning that, hey, if they join my team, they have to be with me to the end or else it's not a good thing. But that's not necessarily true. Life happens, right? People leave for different reasons, and just recognize that there's a human factor involved here.
That's so amazing because many CEOs that I've worked with, they get really personally offended when people leave.
Right. I was the same.
Yeah.
I was the same. I had to get over, I I think there's a lot of, I call it, you can't have what's called ROE, and that's return on EQ.
Yeah.
Right. Um, it's okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to humanity. We're all wrong. We all make mistakes. And getting to that stage of your leadership security is an important step in having that type of philosophical approach to helping people lead your organization.
One of the many things I admire about you is that you will share your mistakes with the team.
Oh, everybody saw them. Like, why wouldn't I admit it?
That's such a great way
Yeah.
to say it. You're watching
So,
it anyway. I gotta own it.
Like, they saw the train wreck. Why wouldn't I talk about it? So they make for a better movie anyway.
It's true.
You know? So we walk out of boring movies. Why tell the boring parts?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all doing our best.
we are.
Yeah. Leaders, HR leaders. It's like, I've always believed if we knew a better way to do something,
Gosh,
we
do
would
it.
use it,
For sure.
right? And we have to extend people that benefit of the doubt.
But
That
sometimes
actually starts with the CEO.
it does. But sometimes people put the CEO on this pedestal, then they
Mhm.
never make mistakes. And
Yeah.
that's dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's dangerous. And as a CEO, you have to be willing to walk off my stage.
Yeah.
Put someone else on stage.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what they want. They want to
Yes.
stand out.
They do.
So
They
yeah.
do.
let them have some fun.
Yes.
So
Nice. So, Bobby, we have a question from Derek Hall, who is the CEO of the Diamondbacks. And he wanted to know, how do you encourage your climbers to be as innovative as possible?
great question, Derek. I think looking back, what I learned to do differently in creating that encouragement was to, first and foremost, start with being very open and transparent about not only what I got wrong, but what I didn't know. Right. So building consistency over time as the prime model for the organization and doing that, and also igniting curiosity. So I would encourage other leaders to get real curious within the organization and be very consistent with reaching out and saying, hey, I have a good idea. I think I have a good idea on how to do X. I've heard great things about what you've done at XYZ or with this. Do you think you have any way that you could take this good idea and make it a great idea? And how well are you giving people what I call the pen? Like be real consistent with giving people the pen.
Yeah.
Like tell them where you're at and then give them the pen and ask them to make it even better.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I've learned that through my own mistakes over time
Yeah.
in not doing it at all and not doing it well at all, to building consistency with that over the years.
Incredible.
So
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
great
that.
question,
Thank
Derek.
you. Yes, thank you, Derek. And thank you, Bobby, for being here. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your wisdom, your learnings, your failures, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Likewise, my pleasure. And all hail the underdogs.
There we go.
So-
I love it. All hail the underdogs.